Imagine coming home after surgery and realizing the person waiting for you isn't really your mother. In Mothered, a first-person psychological horror game, you play as Leanna, a young child trapped in a house where something feels deeply wrong. Over the course of 7 unsettling days, you'll complete simple point-and-click tasks that slowly peel back a disturbing truth about the family, memory, and the reality itself. With its retro visuals, haunting atmosphere, and story-driven gameplay, Mothered isn't about jump scares. It's about the quiet terror of not knowing who or what you can trust. You play as Leanna, a teenage girl who's undergone a pretty serious operation. At the start of the game, your dad drives you to this quiet house in the countryside so you can recover, with your mum supposedly looking after you. But almost immediately, something feels wrong. For one, Mother doesn't really look human. She moves like some kind of stop-motion animatronic, and there are entire rooms in the house you're not allowed to enter. Your brother is there too, but he's always locked behind a door and you're never allowed to open. From that point on, Mother starts to spiral into something much darker and stranger than it first appears. The game constantly glitches, messages flash across the screen like computer errors, and it starts to mess with your head a little bit. You begin asking yourself, is this really a game? Am I even real? The world is deeply unsettling in a way that's hard to explain. You never fully understand what's happening, but that's what makes it so intriguing. There's a constant feeling of dread hanging over everything, especially when Mother suddenly appears somewhere she shouldn't be, sometimes right behind you. It's the kind of game that sticks with you long after you stop playing, and honestly, it haunted my dreams for a while. Gameplay wise, it's all first person and very simple. There isn't a lot to actually do, but the controls are strange to say the least. LB acts like a select or highlight button, while RB is used to interact or pick things up. It never feels natural, even once you get used to it. The game takes place over 7 days, each split into morning, afternoon, and evening. Every day you're given basic tasks such as eating breakfast, finding Mother, picking apples from the orchard, simple stuff. Most of the time it works fine, but there are some moments where you want to ignore what the game tells you to do and explore on your own, only to realize you're not allowed that freedom. Mothered is a game that doesn't hand you answers. Instead, it leaves you with fragments, and over the years, several major theories have emerged trying to explain what's really going on. We're going to break down the most popular interpretations. First up, the sentient AI/simulation theory. Mother is a part of a series by Enigma Studios alongside Enigma Machine and EcoStatus, both which heavily explore artificial intelligence and virtual reality. Because of that, many players believe Leanna isn't a real person at all, but a digital consciousness trapped inside a simulation. In this theory, Mother isn't a human either. She's a malfunctioning AI guardian, designed to protect and guide Leanna, but slowly breaking down. There's a lot of evidence pointing this way. The game's uncanny 3D visuals, reminiscent of Bryce 3D, feels deliberately artificial. Mother herself is literally a mannequin. The world glitches, limits your movements, and constantly reminds you that you're trapped inside of rigid boundaries, all of which strongly suggest a simulated environment rather than a real one. The second theory is that medical trauma or a coma theory. This interpretation suggests that Leanna never truly made it home after her major surgery. Instead, she either died or fell into a coma, and the house represents purgatory space, like formed in her subconsciousness. The strange events we're experienced are fragments of memory, fear, and grief bleeding together. The game opens with a car ride home after surgery, but from the very beginning something feels off. The version of Mother we could see would be warped in an idealized memory of a caregiver, twisted by trauma and fear. The surreal logic of the world reflects the fractured mindset of someone suspended between life and death. The third theory is the abuse and guilt theory. In this theory, Mothered is less literal and more of a metaphorical. The game becomes a representation of a controlling abusive relationship, where obedience is enforced and autonomy is punished. Mother's rules are absolute, and stepping out of line often leads to consequences. Some interpretations take this even further, suggesting Leanna's brother may have been involved in the accident that led to her surgery. His constant presence behind a locked door could symbolize guilt, shame, or something the family refuses to confront. The house becomes a prison built forced in obedience and unspoken blame. Finally, there's a cycle of grief theory. This theory focuses on loss and the inability to let go. Here, Mother isn't a monster or a machine, but a manifestation of grief. The idea is that the real mother cannot accept her child's death, and so she recreates Leanna again and again inside a simulation, desperately trying to preserve a version of her that can never truly be real. Much of the game revolves around remembering repetition and returning things the way they were. all very common responses to grief. In this interpretation, mothered isn't about horror in the traditional sense, but about the pain of holding on for too long. Next, I'll go over the ending and the trophies. Ending 1. Obey mother. Home sweet home. As soon as the game begins, you're placed inside a familiar space, your home. Everything feels quiet, but not peaceful. At this point, simply explore the house, open the doors, and walk through the rooms. Let the game establish and control the atmosphere. Trophy unlocked. Home sweet home. Everything is just as you left it. The box. Soon you'll be instructed to retrieve a box. Don't overthink it, just follow the instructions exactly as they're given. Once you have the box, bring it directly to father and hand it over without deviation. Trophy unlocked. What's in the box? Give the box to father. Your fate. As the game continues, mother's instructions become more specific and more unsettling. Simply keep following her directions. Trophy unlocked. Fate decided. Your fate has been decided for you. This trophy unlocks automatically through story progression. The orchid. Apples. Eventually you're sent to the orchid, one of the game's most important locations. Here's what you need to do. Travel to the orchid, collect all 8 apples, return home, and give the apples to mother. At this point you are still firmly on the path of obedience. Rotten to the core. This next trophy is missable, so pay close attention. After giving mother the apples, return to the house, do not go to sleep. Talk to your brother instead, then return to the orchid. Here you'll witness something deeply unsettling, mother's reaction when control begins to slip. Missable trophy unlocked, rotten to the core, witness mother's despair. The graveyard, our angel. When prompted, you'll visit the graveyard, and this is one of the most important decision points in the entire game. At the graveyard, interact with Leanna's grave. Choose remove the mental block. Missable trophy unlocked, our angel, remove the mental block on Leanna's grave. Important, do this immediately. As soon as the trophy pops, quit the game, reload your save. This time, choose to return to the house instead of altering the grave again. This ensures you don't lock yourself out of later trophies. The invalid argument. Back at the house, there's a moment you can easily miss, but it reveals a lot. After returning home, enter your parents' bedroom, hide in the closet, stay hidden and listen to mother and father's conversation. Missable trophy unlocked, the invalid argument, listen on mother and father. Terminal and memory logs. As the narrative begins to fracture, you'll gain access to a terminal. Interact with the terminal, unlock all memory logs. Trophy unlocked, memory leak, unlock the memory logs from the terminal. Critical path. At this point in the game, briefly acknowledge your awareness. Trophy unlocked, critical deviation, please return to the critical path. This unlocks automatically when you stray slightly, then comply. Final sequence, ending 1. The final stretch of ending 1 unfolds rapidly, as identify, memory, and control collapse into one another. Though naturally story progression, you'll unlock be with mother, you are not you, it's time to end this, none of this was your fault, error connecting, motherhood. This completes ending 1, obey mother. Ending 2, defy mother. Now let's talk about the second ending, the one where you choose your own path. This only requires minimal replay. The key difference, when you reach the orchid again, collect 8 apples, do not give them to mother. This single act of defiance changes anything. Alternate path, our own path. Instead, take the apples to the living room, place them on the record player, and follow the instructions that appear. Trophy unlocked, our own path, find your own path. Ending completion. Finish the sequence to unlock our own path, all trophies if this is your final one. We've reached the part of the video where I talk about my own personal opinions, starting with the negatives. So, firstly, I thought it was very clunky and tedious. One of my biggest issues with the game is how slow and chunky it felt to play. A lot of the time it came across as a walking simulator to me, with really basic repetitive tasks that don't change much as the game goes on. Movement and interactions felt stiff, and even simple objectives can feel like they take longer than they should. I also didn't like the poor optimization and technical issues, because I ran into a bunch of technical problems while playing. There were moments of lag, visual glitches, and bugs that pulled me out of the experience. In a psychological horror game where the atmosphere is everything, it was frustrating trying to figure out whether something was unsettling or intentional, or it was just my game acting up. The misleading RPG label. Going into Mothered, I was expecting more traditional RPG elements because of how it was marketed, but it really isn't the case. There was no real stats, builds, or meaningful choices, and the experience is very linear. Because of that, RPG label feels misleading and set my expectations a little bit too high. A lot of times it was overly dark. Another big frustration for me was how dark the game was. There was no option to adjust brightness, which made a lot of areas generally hard to see. This was especially annoying during gameplay heavy sections, like the apple collecting part, where not being able to properly see turned into a simple task and an unnecessary struggle. I'm also pretty split up on the graphics. On one hand, the lo-fi rough look does add to the unsettling atmosphere and fits a psychological horror tone. On the other hand, there were times where it felt less intentionally creepy and more just poorly executed, which made it hard for me to tell whether something was meant to feel wrong or just unfinished. Now we've gotten to the point in the video where I talk about the positives, so what Mother did really well for me is its atmosphere. There's this constant feeling of unease that never really goes away, even during the quiet moments. The house always feels wrong, and the way Mother appears in unexpected places genuinely put me on edge. It's not loud or jump scary horror, but it's a slow creeping dread that stuck with me long after I stopped playing. I really appreciated how the game focuses on psychological horror rather than the traditional scares. It constantly plays with the idea of identity, control, memory, and reality, and it never fully explains itself. I liked being left to piece the things together on my own, and the ambiguity made the experience feel more unsettling and personal. The soundtrack stood out to me in a subtle way. It's very minimal, but that's what makes it effective. The quiet beats and ambient sounds add an extra layer of tension, making even the simple moments feel uncomfortable. The sound design does a great job of keeping you on edge without being overwhelming. Despite its flaws, Mothered is a game that stayed with me. I found myself thinking about it even after I finished up playing, especially when it came to its themes and possible interpretations. It's not always fun in a traditional sense, but it's memorable, and for psychological horror game, that counts a lot for it. I've been Critical Fate. Thank you for going over this game review with me. See you next time.